Okay, hello and everybody. Welcome to today's webinar, and today we are going to be giving you all the most up-to-date statistics on Canadian organic production and the most up-to-date that we have on sales statistics. So we're very excited to have this as our first in the series of Organic Week webinars. It is being recorded. We will distribute it afterwards. And if you can scroll down on your screen, you will see that there's a section on the webinar tool called Handouts. You will see that we've actually provided a quick facts sheet for you to download and print and take away. So hot off the press numbers for you to get a sense of where things are at for this 2019 is the most up-to-date year statistics that we've got. So just to kick it off, so we are presenting this on behalf of our association here. We're based in Ottawa. And just to get a sense of who we are and what we do, we are a membership-based association, and we're representing all the different areas of the organic value chain, everybody from farmers up to retailers and in between, including certification bodies, organic advocates, provincial associations, everybody along the entire supply chain. So very happy to bring everybody together, especially through Organic Week as our consumer campaign that we work together on. And the four areas that we do focus on is market access, of course, as well as market research, which is the data that we will be giving you right now, and education through our consumer outreach campaigns that we do, such as Organic Week and the Choose Canada Organic campaign, and of course government relations. So you can see a picture of one of our last parliamentary receptions that we had at Parliament Hill. And of course, if you want to stay in touch and get involved, our website is down below. I think what we'll do is we will first do our credits, because we can't do the work that we do without a lot of collaboration with all of the other actors. And so the statistics that we're going to be providing on production and organic acreage today is because of these 17 organic certification bodies that have provided their data so that we can dissect it, analyze it, and turn it back out in aggregate form so we can analyze the growth and successes and obstacles and in some cases declines year-over-year comparative data. Crucial for the industry, of course, and crucial to get a sense of where there are maybe opportunities for those working in the organic sector and or areas where we need to work together with government or programming to cure some of the issues. So thank you very much to all the organic certification bodies. And let's start off with the sales data. And so we, of course, do Nielsen data monitoring when we can, and we have our statistics update. So we're now at 8.238 billion on an annual spending basis. This is 2019 data. And so this has risen 28% since we did the Nielsen stats in 2017. And our market share for organic has gone from 2.6% up to 3.2%. So you can see that organic is growing, and I can tell you that through all the surveys we did with COVID and trying to get a read on whether people's grocery habits were going to be changing due to perhaps jobs loss or other factors that made it less accessible for them to get to a grocery store. 77% of Canadians said that they continued to consume organic because organic was deemed important more than ever, especially in the middle of a health pandemic. So just to see that we are continuing to grow. And this Shoppers Insight, we just did a survey with the consumer perceptions. And so this is very hot new data that we just tested in August. We're going to do a full webinar on Wednesday with Leger, which is the firm who we hired in order to do the independent research. But just wanted to give you guys a quick sneak peek. For the first time, we're seeing, of course, Centennials as the top buyer of organic products, followed then by the Millennials, and then the Xennials, and then the Gen Xers, baby boomers, and then those that are deemed more mature. So you can see that, the younger generation, everybody always asks me, well, they have less money, don't they? It is continuous that ever since we started testing on this data, that the youngest are buying the most. And you might ask how that's possible. Well, a lot of people still live at home with their parents, and they're very values-based. They've definitely been raised with more concern for the environment and conscientious consumption. So these statistics are interesting, but it's really interesting to see how influential this next generation is going to be on the longevity of organic moving forward. And you can see that 78% of organic shoppers report no dietary restrictions nor a label to their diet. And the reason we wanted to test on this statistics is a lot of people think, well, all vegetarian or all vegan people are the ones who are buying organic. And you can see that 78%, majority, have no specific classification of being perhaps a pescatarian or a vegetarian or vegan, having a kosher diet. That was another area that we tested. So it was quite interesting to see that most people are just mainstream consumers. And just to kind of get a sense of income levels, this is very interesting for us to get a sense of who's buying at what income range. You can see that 41% of people that are over an $80,000 family income, 31% under 80, and 19% under $40,000 income. But still, it's quite high across all income brackets. When it comes to university education, 48% of people university educated, 26% college educated, and 24% with high school or less. And there was very minimal divide between male and female consumers. 51% female, 49% male. And this statistic did not change. So in our prior studies, it was 2/3 of Canadians were buying organic weekly. Same statistic. So 66% of Canadian shoppers continue to buy organic weekly, and what are they mostly buying? We're seeing, of course, this is consistent with past studies. Fruit and vegetables is the largest product category, followed by meat and poultry, dairy, bread and grains, snacks, packaged and canned foods, and then we get into other beverages. So this is very consistent with what has been in the 2016-2017 studies that we've done. And then just to get a sense of food service, we did the first baseline study in 2017 to get a sense of how large is the food service market outside of the grocery store sales, which our other statistic touches on. And it's 555 million in food service. And that, of course, covers everything from restaurants, whether it's, quick service, fast and casual, fine dining, and more. And then beyond restaurants is the healthcare institutions, universities, travel and leisure, business, workplaces, etc. So you can see it's about 1.8% of the food service market, so smaller, of course, than grocery, but we are starting to see more demand happening in these areas and more food service distributors getting involved in organic sourcing. So that's quite interesting. But restaurants takes up 53% of the food service market, and beyond restaurants at 47%. Now to get into the international data. This data is always tricky to present because I know that it's very limited in what it can offer. So we do have HS code data provided by Statistics Canada on imports, but that is based on only 45 product codes. So that means we're missing hundreds of other products that are being imported, but this we can measure over time. So we wanted to provide this statistics for you. You can see that there's minimal growth happening every year in regards to imports. It was only between 2015 and 2016 that we saw a dip. And the good news is that we have been leading the work with the federal government to try and figure out how can we make sure that we're capturing and getting good data on all the products that are coming into Canada. So it was announced in April of this year actually April of last year, that it was going to be implemented over time, that the automatic import registry system will start to require all products that are organic to upload their organic certificate into their system when it crosses the border. So this is something that's going to be done over the long term. It's thousands of products, clearly, that need to get logged. And by spring of 2022 is the hope that CFIA and Canadian Border Services will complete this project. These are the product categories that they've mentioned that they will be, some have been implemented and some will be coming. So basically it's just a note to the industry that if you are importing products, make sure you have the proper documentation as it's crossing the border, because in the future it will get stopped as non-compliant in accordance to our Canadian organic regime. And as for exports, again, limited data, because this export data is based off of only 14 product codes. So we're very much lacking solid data, but I'm going to give it what we've got, which is the SH code data from Statistics Canada. You can see that there was quite a dip between 2017 and 2018 on exports. And I really cannot explain what that massive dip was. We knew there were quite a few trade issues happening with the US, with announcements in Japan and some other Asian countries of GMO being discovered, and they halted trade altogether with Canada. So I have to assume that some of these trade restrictions impacted organic sales as well. But you can see that we've risen in 2019 back up to the 2017 levels. But if you're going to go year over year, it was a 20% growth rate over the 2018 volumes. Now, anecdotally, CODA ourselves do a lot of work with exporters. And so through the program that we run, we log how much export sales have been achieved. And in 2019, of the companies that we worked with, they reported an additional 15 million simply through participating through our export programs. So, that is increase. Obviously, the number is not just 460 million, because we know of another 15 million, and there's a lot more that is happening. So it continues to be a dialogue for us to try and get to the place where we can properly track this. But the positive thing is that we do have really great trading partners, which many of them we have international equivalency trade arrangements with. We have 6 countries currently, which are highlighted on the little map. I won't go into too much detail, but that does equal about 90% of organic trade that's happening globally. So we've entered into trade arrangements with each country that is very important organic markets. Canada is the 6th largest, so you can imagine that countries also want to trade with us. And the important thing to note there is that we are advancing on not only the relationships with those countries in regards to data and tracking, but we're also starting some new equivalency arrangements with Taiwan came into place this year, as well as Japan, which we already had an agreement with. They've extended their organic standards to include livestock. So we're going to see hopefully increased export arrangements and sales as a result of those arrangements happening as we move forward. And just to note that because now our Canadian organic standards include the aquaculture products, we are having our first equivalency arrangement with Taiwan to include aquaculture. So that's extremely exciting for our Canadian seafood industry. Okay, now we're going to get into the real goods. We have, through the certification bodies that I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, have been compiling for months the 2019 data. Of course, we need to wait until the close of 2019 and then start analyzing it and bringing everything into the same methodology, make sure that we're coding things the same way that the certification bodies intended to be. So you can see that we have grown in acreage. We were about 3.3 million in 2018. We grew 5% up to 3.4 million. And so I'm not going to give you the exact numbers, but I do have the exact numbers here, which I'm calculating all the growth rates off of. And we have raised, we're now 3% of all organic farms within the total amount of Canadian farms. We had 3% market share. So because the census data is only provided every couple of years by Statistics Canada, we had to do our calculations based off of the 2016 data of conventional farms. So that's how we reached that number. Now to go on to certified operators. To break it down, so we have increased pretty much across all these categories. I'm going to tell you the good news is that we've increased. So we've had a 6% growth in certified organic operations across the entire country, up from 7,073 to 7,528. in 2019. And then it's really the question of, okay, so we've had growth, and have we had a growth across all the provinces? I went in and I analyzed it, and every single province has increased in all operations. So that's the combination of producers, livestock, as well as manufacturers. But I think this is where there is a big question: who's growing the fastest in each province? So in Quebec is where we saw the largest amount of growth on all operations as well, followed by Manitoba. So I'll break that down shortly, but you can see that there's been growth really across every single province that we've been tracking. Now to go into the actual farms. So this is just farms and where we've had growth. So we have had a 4% growth on certified producers, which are farmers, across all the different provinces. So it was 5,468 in 2018. We went up to 5,677. And where are some nuances is there was decreases across almost every province except for Quebec and Manitoba, and Atlantic Canada stayed exactly the same. So it's quite interesting to see that we still had 4% growth, but it's mostly because Quebec had 254 new farms, and there was only 2 new farms in Manitoba. But where we did see massive decreases, well, I would say massive because I didn't expect it, is in Ontario. They decreased 35 farms between 2018 and 2019. And all the rest of the declines were fairly minimal: 1 in BC, 4 in Alberta, 9 in Saskatchewan. So it's interesting to see how much growth there's happening in Quebec with the support of their provincial government and their incentives that they offer within the province through their organic transition program and the funding that's offered there. And to go on to our next is processors. So again, not a huge growth in processors, but there is growth. It was a 1% growth. It went from 10 new processors across the entire country. Now, I know that it is part of the federal government's economic strategy table, that they've put out a desire to support processors. You can see that there's certainly a need in conventional and organic processor operations. We did see that all provinces did increase a little bit, but it's only 10 across the entire country. Where we did see decreases in a big way was in British Columbia. 63 processors stopped being organic in 2019. 6 in Quebec, and the rest of them all had increases. 9 in Ontario, 12 in Alberta, 5 in Saskatchewan, 7 in Manitoba, and 9 in Atlantic Canada. So it's interesting to see how, some areas grow and some decline. Now to move on to livestock, huge growth. And we've never had a very strong organic livestock industry happening in Canada in terms of numbers of operators. We produce a lot, but we don't have that many companies involved in livestock. So we are happy to announce that there's a 12% growth in livestock operations. We went up from 726 to 810 in 1 year. Each province went up, except for a small decline in Atlantic Canada, just went down 1, and Manitoba went down 1, BC went down 1. But everywhere else, Quebec, huge growth, 66 new operators. Ontario, we had 87 new operators. Saskatchewan had 8, and just to mention that Alberta stayed the same at just 57 total, which I always thought that Alberta had a lot more happening there. So it's really interesting to get a sense of where is the main livestock operations happening in the country, which very much ties into slaughterhouses being available and manufacturing opportunities. So back to the processor slide, where it's important for us to have the opportunity to have organic slaughterhouses available too. Now to go on to the acreage data, where we have been able to track this with the assistance of the Canadian organic growers who started tracking this data way back in 2006. And we've been able to pick up over the years and keep it consistent to be able to get a sense of where we're at. And you can see that it's, very minimal growth every year, happening year over year, but it's always increasing. And I think that it's a very positive sign for organic to see that we're, on the right trajectory. It's not leaps and bounds, but it certainly is continuing to grow. And again, brings in the need for a national strategy for the Canada Organic, because we've just shown you all the differences that are happening on a province by province basis. If we had a federal strategy for growing organic across the country, I think we'd see a lot more success. Let's break it down into what is growing by product category. So this, we only have data from 2015 to 2019. And you can see field crops continues to grow, but not much growth between 2018 and 2019. Hardly any, in fact. Fruits and nuts actually have decreased. Fruits, nuts, vegetables, and root crops. So we saw a decline over the 2018 numbers from 79 down to 73,000. And to go into forage and green manures, at times there is problems with the data that's provided by the certification body. So unfortunately, we cannot report on this number for 2016. But we can see that there was an increase. It was fairly similar between 2017 and 2018, and in 2019 we had a nice bit of a jump there on forage, green manures, and natural areas. Wild harvest, this is again where we've had a tricky thing with the numbers. So we did not have numbers provided by one region in 2018. So I had to inquire why the jump was so huge, and this is mostly because we do not have the Quebec numbers. It was not possible to get it from their Quebec portal. But we were able to in 2019. So 2017, 2018 does not include Quebec's numbers. And this is the first year that we were able to get the holistic numbers. And again, just to kind of break it down by province, who's growing, who's not. We've seen a slight decrease in Saskatchewan on your acreage. In British Columbia, we've seen a slight increase. In Alberta, it's a slight decrease as well on overall acreage. And in Quebec, we've seen a huge jump, a huge increase in acreage. In Ontario, we have seen another small decline on acreage. And in Manitoba, we've seen a little bit of a jump, not too much. And when it comes to Atlantic Canada, we had a bit of a small decrease. And then I really wanted to break out the Atlantic provinces because I feel like we never give them very good statistics. So we actually dug in by province where we tried to respect confidentiality. So we did have to do some grouping, but you can see in PEI, it's actually been a 3-year declining trend in the amount of acreage. This is where we had to blend the numbers for Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. So you can see that it's pretty much the same, a little bit of a decrease. In New Brunswick, we have definitely had a wild ride on these numbers from 17,000 to 3,000 to 35,000. So in many ways, I have to wonder if there was something going on in 2018 where the numbers didn't come through correctly with the certification bodies, but it's all that we can work from. And then the Yukon and Northwest Territories, we have blended these numbers again to protect confidentiality. We were at 600 acres, 952, and then down to 305 in 2019. And I can't speak to exactly why those decreases occurred, but this is straight from the CB's portal. So I'm going to leave it there in regards to the key data that we just presented, and I will open it up for questions. You can put any of your questions down in the chat section. And just to know that you will be getting a recording of this, so I might have gone through some of the slides a little bit quickly, but you can have this data for your own and make sure that we get the information out there to the industry. As mentioned, there is a handout that I put as a PDF on the display there, and I'm happy to take any questions. What we'll do is if you write them into the chat function, I will just read out the question and then I'll try to answer it. So does anybody have any questions? Or have I bored you to death with these statistics? Hopefully not. I think they're pretty crucial. I'll just give it another few minutes there. Okay, it doesn't look like we're going to get many questions, so I'm happy to leave it there. But of course, you know where to find us. You've got my email there. If there's any questions, I will just make a point of saying that the statistics that we provided include the operators that are certified to the Canadian organic regime, as well as to the provincial Quebec standard and provincial British Columbia standard. So just to highlight that our numbers are holistic, including national operators as well as those certified to the provincial standards. Okay, and I guess we'll just leave it there for today. Now, I hope that you will be tuning in. We're about to go, oh, actually, maybe we are getting questions. I just looked in the wrong window. So there are some questions in regards to the New Brunswick data. That's what we got. That's what we got from the certification bodies. We are gonna, we'll re-verify that, but that's what we've got. Is the latest data available on the CODA website? We will be updating it. We honestly just finished this. We start this process at the end of December, and it takes all those months of going back and forth, verifying the numbers. So it is available on our Shopify site. If you go to Canada-Organic Shopify, and you'll be able to find the most up-to-date quick facts, but I've already provided this for you here. There was another question for HS codes, but there's not really a question, so I maybe articulate the question a little bit further, Heather, so I can understand what it is. For imported produce, what international certification would you recommend? How about you contact me afterwards and we can tell you which accredited certification bodies are recognized by the Canadian Organic Regime. Happy to walk you through that. And what would be a good resource for our crop growers who are complaining about the market prices are dropping? Well, I know we look at Organic Biz quite a lot, and there is some new information that Statistics Canada is starting to look at to try and monitor fruit and vegetable prices on organic as well. So Stephanie, if you want to be in touch, I can help direct you with what we've got coming out. But it is quite challenging because all of organic is always traditionally grouped in with conventional. So it's hard for us to get the breakout statistics, but I can tell you we've had multiple meetings over multiple years trying to work on how to break out the organic element, and organic pricing is a component of that. So get in touch with me and I'll help you learn a little bit more. And thank you, Valeria, for saying it was a great presentation, and Maria. Okay, so if there's no other questions, oh, no, I got one more. Heather, can you summarize the supports that Quebec provides to its organic producers? So on the MAPAC website, they do detail that they provide subsidies to organic farmers to transition, and that can include anything from their certification costs to consultant costs to infrastructure that they need to install in order to be compliant. So if you visit the MAPAC website, they will give you a summary of the details of those programs. And just to highlight that our association, with the support of our sponsors, we've been able to start a really cool new program called the Support Organic Change Fund, where CODA offers $1,000 subsidies to farmers in any region of Canada that are in the process of transitioning to organic. So if you're in your first 3 years of certification, or if you are already certified and you're expanding your acreage, so you've got another certification, a new bill that's coming to you. We issued 41 farmers $1,000 subsidies across the country this year to encourage farmers to take the risk and go into it and eventually gain the higher premium. But during those 3 years where you do have to be doing the farming and can't sell it as organic certified at a premium, we wanted to make sure that there's a program in place there. And then another question from Roy is, do you think the number of organic processors farms is going down due to consolidation? That could very well be, and I feel like there's a study. As soon as you reveal numbers, it just brings more questions. I feel like we need to actually go and do our next study on organic processors. On our Shopify site, their first inaugural processor report we did about 2 years ago. So that will be the benchmark from where we were at back then, and starting to look at why there's been such a minimal amount of growth, and in some areas a great decline, such as I think it was British Columbia. No, Ontario had the huge drop of 35. Oh, I'm messing that up. Sorry, it was British Columbia that had 63 processors. So hopefully this is, some food for thought for the provincial governments to use the stats and try and find out what's happening in their regions. And thank you, Stephanie, for saying it was a great presentation, and Elma and Angela Chen. So thanks, everybody. I will sign off. I welcome you all to join our #OrganicChat Instagram Live, which is going to happen in about half an hour. So if you're on Instagram, follow us at Choose Canada Organic, and myself and Andy Hammermeister, who's the director of the OACC, the Organic Agriculture Centre of Canada. We'll be chatting through 10 challenging questions for organic, and we will get his expert opinion, but we want yours too. So hop on the line and participate in our Instagram Live, and we will have a recording for that as well up on the Organic Week website once it's ready to go. But otherwise, thanks so much for participating, and take care. Happy Organic Week.